Good evening, everybody, and hope everybody is well. I'm just trying to sort the screen out, so that's better. Okay, thank you very much for joining us this evening after a very frustrating Saturday. I know a lot of people are hurt and frustrated, so I hope everybody's well. Just a few things. Firstly, and I know it's on the list of a lot of people's priority list, the fans forum. Unfortunately, we haven't been allowed to put the tickets up for sale. I've chased for the fifth day running today, and I've been told I'm not allowed to do anything until I get the say-so from the club. So I know the frustration on this. Don't be, you think you're the only ones. We're very frustrated about it because we can't do anything. But we will let you know as soon as we know anything about what's happening with it. One other thing, I don't think I mentioned last year, Prospect are charity from season 25-26. We have a new charity of the season for 26-27, and it's going to be the Swindon Night Shelter. Very local to the county ground, just over the road next door to the ambulance station. And so we're very honoured that we're going to be helping them this season. We're going to meet them on Thursday, and have a look round and look at how we can help them, and then we'll pass this on to our supporters. We will have pin badges. We have actually got the draft now, and we're just waiting for confirmation of quote and everything like that. So hopefully we'll have those ready for the first start of pre-season. So then they look very nice, even I say myself. Okay, and the other thing, and last before we bring people on, as you know, as we funded the Prospect shirts, we have them now to auction, and the first auction is available, and this is Clark's shirt, and I'll hold it up here. As you can see, you probably won't be able to notice, but it has got the dirt marks on it still, so it is the match worn one. That's on the site at the moment. So if anybody wants to bid on that, what you do is you buy a raffle ticket. You pay a bid. We are doing them £1 each, the raffles. And when it gets to a certain amount, then we finish it, and the system locates a winner. So it's an easy way of doing it, so everybody gets a chance of winning. It's we're doing it for the first one, then we'll review it, see how it went, and then we may well do our other ones on there, or we may look at another option. It's just new to us. We've not done this before. We want to get as much money as we can for Prospect, and so we will review it after that. So please get your bids in as soon as possible. I can't say too much about where we are, but if you get them in as soon as possible, that'd be good. Okay, let's bring Vic on. Hello.
Hello, Chris. How are you? Okay.
You're very small. Should I try and change it?
Very small. Yeah.
You're very small.
Try and make me. There you go. How about that?
I'll do it.
Very, very small. There I am. First and foremost, we should remember today the late great Alan McLaughlin, who passed away 5 years ago today. You might remember on that very day, Tom Jones was with us to pay tribute to the great Alan. 5 years ago, we lost a true Sunderland legend and the score of that goal against Sunderland at Wembley in 1990. So R.I.P. Alan, one of Swindon's greats. And also at the start of the programme, you might have noticed Harold Fleming. It was his birthday on the 30th of April in 1887. 11 caps for England, 9 goals, and truly one of Swindon Town's all-time greatest players. So we remember both of them today, the great Alan McLaughlin and also Harold Fleming too. And I'd just like to say, on the word of frustration, how frustrated I was with the Roll of Honour on Saturday. Jay and I worked very hard in putting that together and getting it right. And I'm so very upset that many of you couldn't hear it because of the tannoy system, which we've mentioned on many occasions. So I think the word tonight is frustration, Chris. There's a lot of it.
It certainly is, and I
That's all I
think
can say.
I think a lot of people are giving anger towards Chesterfield supporters for not respecting it. One, I don't think they heard there was going to be a roll of honour, and two, it just happened to coincide with the players, Chesterfield players, coming off the pitch. So I don't think we can blame the Chesterfield players for lack of respect. It certainly wasn't. I don't think they didn't hear what we were doing, because I was on the touchline getting the flag bearers ready for it, and I missed it. So I think it's unfair to blame them. So okay, so we've got lots of guests on tonight. So let's bring them on. We have Mike. We have Nick.
Evening.
We have fans' favourite Gus. We have
Everybody.
Andy. We have Rob.
Evening.
And they go
Evening all.
on, yes. We've got Andrew. We've got Jamie. And we do have Mark, but he's not there at the moment. But he may come back. He was finishing his tea.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you're there. We can't see you, Mike. But we haven't got your picture. But there you go. So
There we are. Should be there then.
no, you're not. But I will leave you to it, and I will see you later. I will go, honestly. I want to see.
Is Minna join us or not?
Am I still there? It won't remove
This is like that
me.
shell game where you put under hats, isn't it? You never go
I know.
right where everything's going to go at any one time.
Doesn't want me to go to that.
There we go. I think Chris is gone. Okie dokie. Not that we wanted to go, clearly. Thank you all very much indeed for joining us this evening. I'm not going to go on about Saturday. I'm just going to give the bare facts because internet tonight, as it usually is. I'm back. Everybody else is back, I think, now. Right. I'm just going to go through the bare facts of Saturday and get a quick comment from all of you on it, because I don't think we want to concentrate too much on Saturday. We want to concentrate on the whole of the season. So Swindon 1, Chesterfield 2, Ben Middlemass on 45 plus 3 minutes for Swindon. The assist by Aaron Drynan. Chesterfield, Lee Bonus on 19. Dion Markande on 61. The assistants coming from Amanda Dobra, 19 and 61 minutes. Swindon played 3-4-1-2. Ripley in goal. Knight, LaBelle, Tavern. We had Hoylett and then Drynan and Holman up front. Lots of substitutions. We won't bother with all those. The possession, 50.5% for Swindon. Chesterfield, 49.5%. Shots on target, Swindon 7. Chesterfield 3. Passes, Swindon 359. Chesterfield 3. Saturday, Mike, your impressions of it. What were your impressions of Saturday?
The curry that we had in the evening at the Bit Club was absolutely fantastic. Was the highlight of the day.
Are you there?
Yes. Sorry, other Indian restaurants are available. It's just my favourite. As for the game, we lost our place in the playoffs long before Saturday. Chesterfield were far better prepared than we were. They wanted it more. They were more tactically astute. Set out their stall right from the start. I was quite surprised, actually. I thought they were going to just come and try and play for the point that they needed, but they certainly didn't do that. They outthought us. They outrun us. Have we said that pretty much in every single game in the last 2 months? Very frustrating.
Nick, what about you? I mean, from a coach's from a coach's point of view, Nick, what were your views?
I like the shape because I've always liked the 3-5-2, and I know we played a 3-4-1-2, but it's still, to me, it was like a 3-5-2. So I quite like that. The only thing is because we don't play it that often, to me, as soon as we got the ball, I'd have had McGregor and what's the name on the left side bombing on. As soon as we get it, we're going to have to take risks because we had to win the game. But I think deep down, most fans I would say, didn't expect us to win the game the way it's been going. So it was more of hope than expecting us to get it. And I honestly thought we'd get a draw. I thought it was going to pan out to a draw, and we still wouldn't have got the playoffs. So, you were hoping with the crowd, would it drive us on and all that? But first half, it never did. You score at the end of the first half. You think second half, could it push us? I thought we started the second half well and all that, but then they get the goal. We had to cut the chances. If that went in, who knows? But it just wasn't, to me, I wanted to go off from the start that we'd really go at them and attack them, but we never did. And you can't keep chipping, changing. When's the last? Have we ever had two of the same team, same 11, start 2 games all season, all different shape for 2 games? He just keeps chopping and changing. So, yeah, I think it was what was expected that we won't get in the playoffs.
Gus, what were your views? I mean, you presumably watched it. What did you think?
Yeah, I was sitting right where I'm sitting right now at the bar in our kitchen, watching on Saturday morning. And first of all, it looked like an amazing environment. I mean, I wish I could have been there in person. 13,000 people, all the flags, a lot of balloons on the field. I don't think they thought about that all the way through, but it looked like a great game to be at. But I agree with Mike. This was lost earlier. I mean, I think we had 6 must-win games in a row, and we didn't win one of them. Any one of those games, if we'd won, we'd be playing next week or this week, and we didn't win. Chesterfield, I was thinking, at the end of the first period, Chesterfield's a better team. They just played better. We didn't play well. And all that said, we had 7 shots on goal, and there were moments when we could have won. I mean, there were one time in front of the goal, the ball was pinballing around, and you're just thinking, I'm scaring the dog by yelling so loud. Come on. And we almost had a chance, but you just kind of felt, given the previous 5 games, that it just wasn't gonna be there.
Andy?
I was about halfway through the first half. I sat there and I thought to myself, just similar to what Mike and Nick has said, it epitomised what we were all season. We looked like a mid-table team against a team that was structured. They all knew what they were doing. They weren't outstanding players particularly, but they all had a plan. They stuck to their plan. They had runners and everything like that. And it's like we said, Saturday was the end of it, but it died a long time ago, didn't it? You go right back to the writing was on the wall a long, long time ago. And I suppose all the players that we've lost, but we haven't played well all season. I know we'll come on to this in a minute, but it just felt, we weren't any different to what we'd been for a long, long time on Saturday, were we?
Rob, I know you, well, I don't know if it's steam still coming out your ears. How you doing?
Pretty much, I have to say. But it's frustration, isn't it? Frustration.
Can you hear us, Rob? You there?
Yeah, I'm here. You can hear me? Yeah. It's frustration for me, Vic. I have to say, it's when you look at the bare facts, Saturday, to be quite frank, was probably one of our better performances in the last 10, which probably
all
said
I've got is a spinning
we've been.
White circles of everybody, so I'm not sure what's going.
So I'll carry on, Vic, because I think everyone else can hear.
I've got some comments coming in, so I'll.
It's one of those strange situations.
Agree. Our midfield has been shocking all season. Hello, GAP Phillips. We were bad. No excuses. You back, Rob? Are you back with us?
He's never
Am I back with you? What's going on? What's happening?
I was there anyway, Vic. It was you that was missing, I think. Shall I recap?
It was me who disappeared. Right, repeat what you said.
Okay.
Yes, please.
It's the frustration. It's the frustration is the word, whichever way around you look at it. The guys have already said that everything pretty much that we all thought. The irony being that actually Saturday was marginally better than the performances we've seen in the last 10 games or so, which actually is quite ironic, really, bearing in mind how low the expectation level was from everybody last week, and I think building into the game. I've never known a game which had so much riding on it, where there was so little expectancy from the Swindon fans. And to be fair, it panned out exactly as we expected. We all hoped and prayed that the players would get the lift from the 13,000 fans in there and they would put that performance on that we saw in the first half of the season. But did we really expect it to happen? I don't think any of us did. I think I was on here last week, wasn't I, when I hesitated before I gave you a prediction and then went with my heart rather than my head, because my head was telling us we weren't going to do it. And unfortunately, I think about when that first goal went in after 20 minutes, everything fell flat, didn't it? Yeah, we got the lift just before half-time. We got the equaliser. It was a splendid goal, to be fair, really well worked, and it was a great finish. But realistically, Chesterfield were light years ahead of us, as have been Colchester, as have been Cambridge, as have been pretty much every other team we've played over the last 2 months. In the end of the season, we finished top of the middle of the table by finishing 9th. We didn't even finish in the top 8. So we weren't in the top third. So that tells you where we ended up finishing this season.
This is from Nikki. I'm certainly going to miss Andrew's interviews with Holloway every week. They were definitely entertaining. The banter between you guys was hilarious. He loves you, really, Andrew. Does he really love you, Andrew?
I'm not sure there'll be flowers being sent to me, but I think we sort of get on in our own strange way. Perhaps you've probably got the quietest person and the loudest person, and you've kind of collided them together. So maybe there's some kind of happy medium where we meet in the middle. Quickly, I'll say a couple of quick things that other people haven't said, which are nice, just for a tiny bit of balance. But I broadly agree with pretty much everything that's been thrown there. That Chesterfield looked like a team who had a structure and a plan and had it very clear in their minds by game 46, and we still didn't. We're slightly unlucky in that the points total would usually make the playoffs, and pretty much I think every result over the last 2 weeks that Swindon haven't been involved in has gone against them. But that still doesn't mean we deserve to be in there. And I'll give Ryan Tafazoli a bit of props for playing, because the way he was holding his arm, that did not look like a natural sort of running star. But other than that, it was, bar that little spell at the start of the second half, very hard to believe it was going to happen. And as well as all the tactical stuff you can kick around, the most obvious thing is that the ability we had and the kind of collective will we had last season to produce comebacks is just gone. And I think that's quite alarming.
Yeah. Jamie, your view.
I think Saturday for me was all about 11,500 people heart overhead. I don't think I spoke to one person in the build up to the game that actually thought we were going to perform enough on the day to get through. And those that did, I think we're in two minds of, would that be a good thing or not? Because would we really get past one of the other prospects in the playoff picture? Having said that, I think the bit for me was the frustration is the fans and the town turned up, and I think way beyond my expectation in terms of being with the team long before kickoff, right the way to the end, which shows the potential and shows quite how frustrating it is that the opportunity has been thrown away, and that it's down to our own misgivings, if you like, through the season rather than anyone else's. And I think actually for me, the comment that really summed up the day was from Andrew's commentary at half time, which said, kind of as you stated to just now, that one team looked like after 46 games, they'd got a structure and a way of playing, and one team looked like we had no idea how we were supposed to be playing. And for me, that's the unforgivable bit, is that how can you go an entire season and not have an identity and still not have an identity at the end of it? Which just shows how that kind of frustration kicks in. But for me, it's the 3 wins in 13 games. That is catastrophic. So yes, negativity's got to be there, but there's got to be a bit of an inquest. And that's not a bad thing. It's just how do you end up with such a great opportunity that is in our own doing, and you end up with such a negative after such a turnout from the fans on the last day?
Yeah, it was tremendous turnout, and what a noise they made. This is from Dewey. Hope to see talented Middlemass and Tabor, whichever way you want to say it, more next season on the pitch. Also, on the new season shirt, can we have a small kangaroo koala on the shirt somewhere, please? Nothing to do with me, I'm afraid. Hi, Fools Rush In. You're on at 9 o'clock, I know, tonight. 2025 STFC were brilliant for almost 12 months. 2026 STFC have been abysmal, in my opinion. Hi, GAP Phillips is discontent in the team. Anyone can see that Holloway's lost the players. Hi, Rob. As I said to Vic earlier today on one of his posts, the weather on Saturday summed up our total season perfectly. Terrific first half, bally awful second half. We'll be moving to County Durham in the close season, but we'll keep my season ticket. The odd home game and a few Oop North away games. It'll be a huge wrench. I'm sure it will, Rob. Mark, I'm sure you've got lots to say, and I'm sure, like many of us, you're frustrated. Is that strong enough a word? I don't know.
No, it's not strong enough a word. I feel really sick to the stomach, to be perfectly honest. We've particularly and totally thrown the season away. And I'm sitting here asking, the number one question in my head is why? Why have we thrown a season like this when we were playing pretty well up until January, and now all we see is dross week in, week out? It's not good enough. It's simply not acceptable. And I can't believe that some fans, A, accept it, B, applauded the players off the pitch, because there's been nothing short of shambolic. We're sat here saying that Chesterfield were a good side, they had a plan, but the same applied to Colchester, Accrington, before Christmas, Crawley, Gillingham, pretty much every team we play.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons is we don't have a midfield. I hope Ian Holloway is listening to this, and the owner. I repeat, we don't have a midfield. We're playing two lightweight guys in there. Might be quite good ball players, but we lacked a midfield enforcer. I was on this panel in January saying exactly the same thing. We never replaced off the ball. Clark was injured or suspended too often, and we ended up with a midfield two sometimes of people like Oldacre and Kilkenny or Borland, and then he brings on Middlemas to play, and the guy looked like he can play. So where's he been? Where's he been, Holloway? Answer that. You know, I think lots of people are shaking their head, and I don't accept either. I wasn't coming into the game on Saturday thinking we'd lose. I genuinely thought we'd win, because that crowd is absolutely fantastic. The club don't deserve support like that. They don't deserve over 11,000 people turning up when the football's been so terrible in the last few months. And the crowd nearly got them over the line. You know, we got a really good equaliser, and for the first 20 minutes of the second half, we were pressing, looking like we were going to score. And of course, when they scored, it felt like the end. It felt like we were beaten, because everything came, everything that had happened in the last few months came to pass. But I just simply can't accept what's happened in the last few months. I can't accept that we've won 3 games in 13, like Jamie said. I can't accept we've won 1 in the last 7 when we needed to win, and even a couple of wins would have pushed us into the playoffs. I'm simply staggered, and I'd like people from, within the club to tell us what is going on, because something has happened to that football club. It's more than just what's on the pitch. There's something going on at that football club, and I don't know. So answers, please, Mr. Mulpooney. Away. We need a fans forum on Thursday, and if it's cancelled, that's pathetic.
Well, 1 point out of the last 12, I think, says it all as well. This is from Paul. Walked up to the ground at around the 2:45. The noise was coming out of the stadium was fantastic. Took me back years. The whole atmosphere pre-match was fantastic. Just shows the potential of the club, but what a disappointment after that. Men v boys. Hi, Andy. A game we needed to win, and Holloway played Nichols and Middlemass in midfield, who hadn't started a game all season. Unbelievable. Lesson to learn for next season. If we sign a player on a season-long loan and he does well, don't be shocked when he inevitably goes back in January as a saleable asset. And Holloway stacked and racked. Drynan finished on 22 goals, followed by Palmer on 8, so even this didn't work. We need 2-3 mighty League 2 centre-halves, because defensively we've been a shambles. I really feel for Ripley. Loads more comments coming in. If we don't get to them all, I'm really sorry, but we'll get to as many as we can. I'm going to whiz through the fixtures and how they went this season, because a lot of them point to what we saw later in the season, like the opening game at Walsall. Lost 2-1 away. A last-minute goal conceded at Walsall. Cambridge 3, we won 3-2 at home. We beat Oldham 2-1 away. Barnet 0. Barnet won 2-0. the game in which Harry Smith was injured, of course. Shrewsbury won 2-1, Crewe won 3-0, arguably the best first 45 minutes of the whole campaign. And at the end of August, Swindon were 5th, 12 points from 6 games. Then in September at Barrow, we won 3-1. We beat Harrogate at home 3-1. We lost at Salford 3-2. How many times in a season can you do that? Bromley at home won 2-0. And at the end of September, second with 21 points from 10 games, Mike. It all looked really, really good.
To me, Vic, it all looked really good until the night that we went to Barnet and won, which I think was the middle of February, sort of mid-16th, 17th of February, something like that. And after that night, we were second. I've actually written it down here. We were 3 points behind Bromley. We were 3 points above 4th place. We were 11 points above 8th place, 11 points above 8th place. This is all after 31 games. We were 13 points above Grimsby and 14 points above Barnet, both of whom finished above us. So with 13 games to go, as it turned out, we needed 17 points from those 13 games to make the playoffs, with the number that we needed to make it in the end. 7 home games after that, we won 1 and drew 3. We had 6 points out of 7 home games. And we can all pick out games where we chucked away points after that. Away at Crawley, that was scandalous how we let them. We dropped 2 points there. Home to Fleetwood, we dropped 2 points. Home to Accrington, we dropped 2 points. Home to Bristol Rovers, even though they were just about to start resurging again, we dropped 2 points there. We dropped at home to Crewe. All we needed out of all of those was 3 more points to make the playoffs from the position that we were in. And the only thing that I can think of, if I go back to that Barnet one where I think it was all went wrong, that was just about the moment when the enormity of the debacle at Luton was actually hitting home. When Holloway was on, first of all, he blamed administrators, and then he blamed someone else, and then he blamed someone else, and then he blamed somebody else. It all seemed to hit home just after then, when actually, do you know what? I think he should have just put his hand up there and said, yeah, you're right. I tried it on. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. My fault. Get back to it. We spent so much time contemplating our own navels, and everybody else still ate our lunch. And we were just, I just think from that moment forward, our manager was just thinking about other things. And what is it they say? The fish rots in the head down?
Go to October. You touched on a lot of the games that we're going to touch on later. In October, Newport County away won 1-0. Accrington away lost 4-0, a really heavy defeat. Many of us remember that. Notts County at home 2-2. Colchester home drew 0-0. At the end of October, the second, 26 points from 14 games. Let's go into November. Tranmere at home 1-2-1. Fleetwood away 1 each. Grimsby Town at home 2-2. Chesterfield away 1-2-1. And the position at the end of November, second, 34 points from 18 games. I'm going to the fixtures, Nick, so that if you want to pinpoint any moments in there that you think are worth picking up on, then please do so. But where was it that it went wrong for you? You're on mute, Nick. Nick, you're on mute.
Yeah, turned it off.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I was thinking at the start of the season that we were going to romp the league. I couldn't see it. The start of the season, we were playing so good. I thought we're looking better than most teams here. I just couldn't see it changing. And so the drop off is just, the second half of the season's been incredible. So I thought we played well. But, everyone knows as a team, as a coach, you want to keep consistency, but we haven't been consistent with our team. What are we expecting the players to be like? We can't, when they're chopping and changing every week. You don't know who's playing, what formation they're playing. I just didn't get it. I didn't get it at the end. As a coach, you always want to stick by your coaches, but as the season dwindled out, it was hard to try and back him, because it was like he didn't have a clue what he was doing because he kept chopping and changing too much. Surely he must work on shape and formations and movement and patterns of play. But there was nothing. There was nothing going through the midfield. And every time we played it on the day, working through the midfield, we looked a much better team. but we never done it. It was always pumping it. And that's basic. That's God. If you don't know what you're doing, just whack the ball up the front. That's the easy thing to do. Is get the link up play and the formations you want to play. Yeah, you have to have plan B and plan C if things aren't going right. But to start with, you would stick with them from. He just kept chopping and changing it. You know, to me, we were the better team. So you let people worry about us. But he was always worried about all the opposition all the time. He kept worrying about them, which was I just didn't get. It's different if we were bottom of the league. Then you got to worry about them. But we weren't. We were at the top. Let them worry about us. I just didn't understand it. I really never.
How much does injuries play a part in that, though, changing the team? Because obviously there were an enormous amount of injuries, I think it's fair to say. And you have to change sometimes. Suspensions then come into it, all that kind of thing. Do you take that as part of it, or?
Sometimes you do, but you mainly stick to all formation you like and players. Let's be, people. To me, I think people get carried away now with all these formations. At the end of the day, I always say there's one formation. It's 11v11, unless you get a player sent off, and you will work with 10 against 11. You work on that. If you're a player down, who drops in, who covers where, and what we do it. But at the end of the day, it is 11v11. How are you going to work it? You look at what their shape is, Or I was lucky that I was involved at the club when we had Glenn Oddle, and he loved 3-5-2, and I think he drilled that into me that I loved it, and that is my favourite. So when I saw the shape Saturday, I thought I quite like this. But the problem is with our wing backs, because they're not natural wing backs, you could see they weren't bombing on. They weren't really going for it, because that's when you want to win the game. You want your fullbacks really going at them, your wing backs taking it to them, and that's the gambles you take. But then you get one of your midfield players who just drop in. So in effect, when we lose the ball, a midfield player drops into you, play with a back four vertically. Your three centre backs can go out wide as a fullback, whichever side they're defending on, and a midfield player drops in, kind of thing. But you work on that on the training ground. I don't get it. That's what I don't understand with it. Yeah, of course, injuries affect us. You were saying the captain, he has been a big influence on us, but he's missed so many games. You can't rely on that with him because he has missed so many games. But surely the players, if you go through it and you drill it into them, certain shapes, they should know what they're doing. But it just didn't look like we had that with the team.
All right, let's have a look at December. Cheltenham at home lost 1-0. Bristol Rovers away won 3-0. That, of course, is when Drynham was sent off. Crawley at home won 1-0. MK Dons away lost 1-0. Cheltenham away won 2-0. And the position at the end of December, second, 43 points, 23 games. January, Gillingham won 2-0. Salford away, at home, lost 3-2 again. Bromley away, lost 1-2. Notts County away, lost 1-2. Barrow at home, won 3-1. And the position at the end of January, 6th, 49 points, 28 games. I've got you on this one, Gus, because I know you were there for the Gillingham game. Everything looked okay then, didn't it?
It looked good. That was a lot of fun, by the way. I want to say one of the reasons I really enjoy being on this show is I learned so much. What Nick was just saying about consistency in the lineup is something that I felt, but you couldn't quite articulate. They play a game and somebody played great. Mabete would play great, and then the next week he wouldn't be in. And I think, why aren't in my mind, why aren't we playing our best players? Do we need to be so cute all the time and try to really carefully line up our players against their players? Or should we just be putting our best players in to try to win the game, and let them, as Nick said, let them worry a little bit about us. It also, something that occurred to me early in the season, particularly when Drynham went out there, I guess it was in January, we were really relying on him for goals. We really needed somebody else who was going to be able to score consistently, and we didn't really have that person, unfortunately. I was also trying to figure out early in the season, were we overachieving? And then later in the season, were we underachieving? I really felt early in the season like we were playing at our potential. I don't think we were playing out of our minds. I think we were a really, really solid team that could win games up through the middle of January, roughly. And then in the second half, I don't think we were really underperforming. I think we were kind of also living up to our potential, unfortunately, which means the potential wasn't very high, which is a sad thing to say. One of the most important things for example, in American college basketball is talent assessment. Everybody's fighting for the same players. Can you find people out there that other people aren't seeing and bring them in and maybe middle mouse kind of guy? You got to be really good at that if you're going to win, I think, at this kind of a game. And I didn't see much of that. And then when they did maybe have a guy like Middlemass, then they never played him, which is a shame. Just a bunch of random thoughts.
Absolutely. No, very, very, very good. Hi, Stephen. Vic, totally agree. The roll of honour is something that's very important to us. Couldn't hear it all in the articles. And to me, there's always been two cornerstones, really. The roll of honour and the remembrance game. And as I said before, Jay and I worked really hard. We were told to get it done at 2:45, which is what we did on the button. But for some reason, without a tannoy that actually works in the county ground, it makes that very difficult. So frustrations for all of us. Let's get into February then. Harrogate away, 1-1-0 with that penalty with Darren Dryland in the last minute or so. Oldham Athletic at home, won 3-0. Newport County at home, won 2-0. Shrewsbury away, lost 3-1. Barnet away, won 2-1. That was a change round from the first half to the second half. Mike was talking about earlier. Ollie Clark driving the team on in that game. Crewe at home lost 2-1. Bristol Rovers at home, 1 each. So the position at the end of February, 4th, 62 from 35. Andy, what were your thoughts at the end of February?
We were in that sort of period. I think everyone's been saying that we probably punched above our weight before Christmas. And then I think the chickens were coming home to roost in the second half. We had that little bit of a run, actually, didn't we? After beating Newport, we'll be second then, I think. But I think everyone that was going regularly was realising this isn't right. All the reasons that people have been saying, like Nick saying, an inconsistent lineup and inconsistent formation. And I think it really, really dawned on me, I think we got a problem, was the Shrewsbury game. Because Shrewsbury, if I recall, they were down the bottom then. I think they just had a change of manager and everything like that. They just were a different class to us that day. And we thought, we're the team at the top, they're the team at the bottom. It was just so obvious. And that was when the worries were happening. I'm going to go back just a little bit, if I may. And there were key times throughout the season where we were exposed. And we said about we were worrying about other teams. Teams didn't worry about us, but they exposed us. They sorted out for what we were. Accrington, we had two lightweight midfielders in there. They just filled it and just stuffed us. Barrow did the same. Even though we beat them, Barrow, as soon as they worked it out, they swamped our midfield when we were nothing. And that happened on a number of occasions. But Barnet at home, Cheltenham, Crawley, even though we beat Crawley. The amount of times they went, let's just go into their midfield. And we were then stifled completely. And I mean, Kilkenny had an excellent season. He did fade come the end and sadly got injured. But apart from him, and when Clark was available. So going back to what I said, Shrewsbury was the real sort of thing, crikey. I've got a bit of a worry here.
Yeah, I think we all did after that one. Into March, Crawley away, 2-2. MK Dons at home, lost 2-1. Gillingham away, won 2-0. Tranmere won 1-0 away from home. And Fleetwood at home, 1 each. Position at the end of March. 5th, 70 points from 40 games, Rob. How are you feeling then?
We'd pretty much got ourselves into a position where we were ready to throw it away, Vic. That's how I felt at the end of that point. Mark summed up all of my feelings a few minutes ago, and obviously he'd moved our debate on a little bit in terms of what we were going to talk about next, in terms of what the reasons are, as opposed to what happened on Saturday. But everything that Mark said is what we've been saying for weeks and weeks on end. And I'm not going to paraphrase and repeat what everyone else has said, but the midfield has gone. The midfield has disappeared. It was wrong to not give Offenborough a new contract at the start of the year. It was wrong to not replace him with a big, dominant central midfield player. We had that opportunity at the start of the summer. We didn't take it. We had another opportunity to do that in this January transfer window. We brought in a couple of youngsters from Premier League teams who technically are good little players. Realistically, is that what you need in League Two? Absolutely proven it's not. Centre-half position, absolutely don't understand it. I was brought up in an era where your two centre-halves pretty much all through the season, unless they got sent off or they got injured, because they were the two players who led your team. Tafazoli, admittedly, is one of those dominant centre-halves, but when he's made of glass and he doesn't play more than 3 or 4 times every 8 or 9 games, you can't have him in your team, as much as he's a great player. And similarly, the Mabeti situation is utterly bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. I just don't get it. He has been and has shown to be one of the most, certainly the one central defender who will put a tackle in and has got the pace to get himself out of situations. Knight Labelle, great little player in himself. Will Wright, unfortunately, has gone backwards this season. Everyone else playing around them has struggled. And if you can't get anything central in that defence sorted out, you will have problems. Your defence will win you a championship. Your forwards will score your goals, but your defenders will win you a championship. And we have not had consistent players in that position all season. It's so frustrating because it just feels like we have thrown this season down the pan. And this was, without a shadow of a doubt, the best opportunity we've had in years of getting out of this division.
Yeah, you may well have noticed that Mabete's dad was parading up and down the Arkle John Trollope stand holding a number 3 shirt with a Mabete on it and waving it at the dugout like that. I think he echoed the thoughts of many as he was doing that, I think. I'm going to put this to you, Andrew, and then we'll finish up the fixtures in a minute. But this is from Nick. Did Andrew get any explanation as to why he had to wait 2 hours for the post-match interview? This is more disrespectful to the fans. I think most of us thought there was going to be a major announcement. What was the buzz in the media room at that moment?
Well, like I said, I think, the fact that all the players were called in was one thing, and then the fact we gathered he went in to see the chairman, we were wondering if something was going to happen, and that was what the delay was. And if the delay was someone was going to fall on their sword, then you could kind of be relaxed about it. But that wasn't it. Can I ping you some quick season thoughts at this point?
Of course.
So the nerd in me will look at the sort of first half and the second half of the season. The kind of attacking output dropped off a little bit between the first and the second half. Our sort of very basic numbers in terms of shots given up per game and shots on target against us per game in the second half of the season are about where Newport are. So that's how bad the defending has been. So that's quite sobering. We can kind of kick about the individual players. I think I'll try and throw some wider themes in. One, I don't think I could list the sheer number of people who've said the kind of thing that Andy has said. For a long time, it didn't feel like a promotion season, and we probably have to ask why. Is that about how the fans and the players bond, or how the fans feel about the club overall, or whether it simply was a matter of the football deteriorating and anything else? And I think I go to other thing. I think I'm going to throw through some quick off the pitch things. So obviously the Luton debacle is, ultimately the administrative staff have to accept some responsibility for that. So they've not helped. You look at the thing with the physio disappearing and not being replaced. And Ian Holloway said the person they had came in and did well. I'm not going to criticise their individual work, but he said they were doing 2 jobs. Have the club helped out enough, for example, in that area when they lose someone and people move on, and that's fine? Do they go and get someone? And the third thing is, what's the sort of structure? The point that Gus made about kind of recruitment, finding players. Remember at the start of last season, we had Jamie Russell, and we had this sort of emphasis on youth. And now, by the end of this season, we're completely ripping up the academy and starting again. And clearly, we didn't identify the balance of talent correctly that we needed in January, regardless of the injuries. So, you can look at the manager, you can definitely ask questions, but I do think there are those broader structural things and thinking and I wouldn't say smart things, but things that haven't happened, and maybe there's a couple of points difference in there, enough to get us into the playoffs and chuck ourselves at it and see what might happen. So, speech over.
No, a lot of those points I think many people will agree with. The Luton debacle we'll get onto in a minute because I'm going to go through the cup scores. And anyway, April, Cambridge away 1-1. How lucky was that? Walsall home 1-2-1. Colchester away lost 3-0. A debacle. Accrington at home 2-2. Grimsby away. Jamie lost 4-0. End of April 8th, 75 points from 45 games. It's the only game I missed all season at Grimsby. I have to say, how lucky was I? You went, Jamie. What did you feel during that game?
What I feel during the game is I didn't even get my fish and chips, which would have been worth it. That was kind of my biggest thought in the second half was, would I have rather left and gone and got that? I think it was a bit like Saturday, where I can't honestly say that many people, I think, went with blind faith. And we just started so poorly. And I think that's the theme through probably March, April for me, is I feel the mentality changed. And the way that we were setting up for games became incredibly negative. And I think it almost slipped out in one of Andrew's interviews. I think it was Grimsby, where it wasn't Holloway talking. It was obviously Bignot, who basically admitted we were trying to get to half-time at 0-0. And that's what it felt for certainly the last 2 months, if not longer, was let's get to half-time, still Sable, and then we might see if we can throw a couple of people on and have a go at someone. And forget this season. We've never been good at doing that from a defending point of view and managing games through. And then you start to say, we're going to go and do that at Cambridge, and we're going to go and do that at Colchester against teams that will dominate the ball. And frankly, we were all sitting there saying that we're going to get hammered. And that's what I don't understand, is that maybe you can argue from a coach point of view, he didn't think that we had the resources to take a team on. But I think we were all sitting there saying we're not good enough to defend. So if that's not your strength, I just don't understand the mentality of setting yourself out to try and keep a clean sheet, which we hadn't been doing for months. Even the first half of the season, we weren't keeping clean sheets. So where did that blind loyalty sit that said, we're going to get 1-0 here, we'll get 1-2-0 here? And Colchester was exactly that for me. Forget whether it was a sending off or not. I still felt we went into a game, we could have gone top, we could have gone into the top two, and we went into a game at a club that had nothing to play for, with a mentality of get to half time at 0-0, we might win it in the second half. That's not acceptable for me. That's not a promotion chasing team. That's not a team that feels like they're all in the dressing room believing in what the mission is or believing in what they can deliver for the rest of the season. It seemed just bizarre. And I think we could feel that as fans. So if we can feel it as fans, then I question what was going on in the dressing room when you're being asked to set yourself up like that.
Yeah, I missed it because I was otherwise engaged in London that weekend. I'd just like to say thank you before we move on to all those who've donated to the Phoenix Enterprises for that little run that I did. £2,200 I've raised, so thank you. I'm so very grateful. And that, of course, all goes to Phoenix Enterprises, who do tremendous work getting people into jobs after brain injuries and also with learning difficulties. So I'm very, very proud that you've done that. And thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Mark, let's wrap up the season. I'm going to let you say something else in a minute. Whatever you want to say is fine tonight. It's fine. But I just wanted to finish with this. Chesterfield on Saturday, of course, we lost 2-1. Position at the end of May, 9th, 75 points from 46 games. This is from Lawrence. Evening all. Now Holloway needs to go. He built this team and failed. Was given everything he wanted, then blamed the failures for failure. Hi, Spencer. Holloway said before the season started we needed to concede 20 less goals. We didn't, and that's where it all went wrong. He didn't sort that out. Fact. Hi, Dan. One win in the final 7 games tells its own story. The negative turning point was the whole debacle of Luton, but it just highlighted the deep-rooted problems that there are at STFC on and off the pitch. Mark, off you go.
I'll come back to what I said at the start, and I don't apologise for kind of repeating myself. This is a failure of epic proportions. This isn't just a little blip. This is a failure of epic proportions. This league this year didn't have a Wrexham, it didn't have a Luton. It didn't have a standout team. Bromley are just the land of the giants. MK Dons are okay. There's a few quite decent teams in Chesterfield and Grimsby. But any side that was coached properly, that was organised properly, would have got, let alone in the playoffs, in the top three. I'm asking, again, I come back to the question that I asked before. Why? Why did we keep playing the same way? Why did we have a midfield that didn't exist, that got overrun by the likes of Crawley and Accrington and Chesterfield and Grimsby? Why did Holloway keep putting square pegs in round holes? Why did he pick a team against Colchester who had power and pace that couldn't run? There are so many questions that it beggars belief. You know, we had a top opportunity to get out of this wretched league. And now here we are again, supposedly trying to buy back into him saying, oh, I'm going to change, I'm going to learn from this year. But then telling us he's had 1,000 games experience. It's like the one thing or the other. You know, I'm beyond frustrated. And as for off the pitch, the shenanigans going off the pitch, you use frustrated. I'm going to use the word contempt. It's contemptuous to have a roll of honour, a roll call, Vic, that you organised that people couldn't hear. That is frankly scandalous. It won't do. It's also terrible that only 2 turnstiles were open at the town and the people were coming in at 3:10 and there were no drinks. You know, all these things just show that the people off the pitch treat the fans with contempt. I'm staggered that people have come in their droves to watch this team, because once again, they don't deserve it. You know, these Swindon Town fans are absolutely fantastic. They come week in, week out. We've had an average gate of 8,500, 13,000 on Saturday, which begs the question, what is the current capacity of the ground? That might be something that the owner can answer if the fans forum goes ahead on Thursday. So many questions, but for me, a season that's completely been thrown away. You know, and I guess part of me didn't realise how angry I was until I came on this film. I've kind of been quite calm over the last few days, but hearing all the guys talk and thinking about it, thinking about you going through, you know, the games, Vic, and where we were after 30 odd games in second place, and then coming into the last 7 games of the season and winning 1 game, and that frankly was lucky. We were lucky to beat Walsall. They could have been 2 or 3 up before we scored. I'm sitting here shaking my head, really. I'm just wondering where we go from here and whether, you know, what happens with Holloway. I think the fans are very divided as well, aren't they? There's a lot of people who, again, happy to have a club, all of that malarkey. I don't buy into that. I want this club to progress. I want Morfuni to show us. You know, he said 5 years ago we're going to get Championship football. We're no nearer that. Frankly, 9th, it might be perhaps the best we're going to do in the next few years. We might be languishing still in League 2 in 5 to 10 years' time. We've spent 1 season in the last 10 in League 1. Are people happy with that? Ask yourself out there, if you're listening to this broadcast, folks, are you happy to be in League 2? Because I am not.
No is the answer to that. As I've said many times. Hi, Nev. Can't remember being so disappointed at the end of a season for years. Expected so much, yet the decline since Christmas has been terrible. Expect to lose Joyner, McGregor and Kilkenny, who despite their contracts will be sold to cash in. I blame injuries, blame Clark's suspension, or blame the incompetence of the Luton game. But look at the lack of continuity in the defence, even when the right players have been available. Massive changes needed in the management structure. Let's go through those cup matches then. Rotherham away, won 2-1 after extra time, down to 10 men. Great goal from Darren Oldacre, you might remember, an absolute thunderbolt put us through. Beat Bolton 4-0 at home, arguably the standout performance of the whole season. Then went to Salford away, and guess what? Lost 3-2. In the Carabao Cup, early season, Cardiff City away, lost 1-2. The start of the Ollie Clark saga. Then the Virtue Motors. Do you remember that? Reading at home, won 3-2. West Ham under-21s, home, lost 3-2. MK Dons away, a hat-trick from Aaron Drinan, won 4-0. Peterborough at home, won 1-0. And then Luton, Mike, away, won 2-1. Do you remember that?
Don't get me started on that. That's where this blame game appears to have started, really. if you remember, and I'm sure Andrew will remember because he was probably the one who took it broadsides, the interviews in the days after with Holloway, blaming absolutely everybody except the one person who actually was in position to not have that happen. I don't know. I mean, I saw the Luton fans when they went to Wembley, you know, and I saw one or two of them interviewed on Sky, and they're saying, you know, we shouldn't be here. We're here by default, and it's exactly how it feels. I think everybody. I didn't go that night. I was one of the ones who stayed at home and watched it on the TV. Everybody who went were cheated that night. Everybody who went to that game were cheated, and they were cheated by our manager. I'm sorry to say, they weren't cheated by an administrator. They weren't cheated by Drinnan not saying to Holloway, "You can't put me on as a sub because I'm not on the team sheet." Whatever reason, it just didn't do their homework. It didn't get all joined up together, and at that point, and in the fallout of that, you know, and within days, you know, Finn Munro had gone, and then every single Holloway interview after that started with, "Oh, Aston Villa should never have recalled Finn Munro." His eyes were over there. They were not on what was in front of him. They were not on getting us over the line. He was far too busy trying to make excuses for what had gone wrong. And I'm still angry about that now, quite honestly. I still think he is solely responsible for this, I feel. He got everything he wanted in the window. Clem gave him everything that he wanted. I'm not a big Clem fan, but he gave Holloway everything he wanted in the window. At the end of the window, he said he was happy apart from all his Finn Munro stuff. And it's all gone downhill since then.
Yeah, I think we all understand that, Nick. I mean, as a coach, again, I keep asking you this, but you're the one who has been there. I mean, wouldn't you check, double check, and triple check? I don't know. I've never been in that situation. Do you take whatever is told you in gospel, or do you check?
Normally, you would take it as gospel. I had it years ago at Calne. We played Corsham, and in the FA Cup, we beat them. And then one of our players, because I was fuming, I wanted to kill the secretary. We got kicked out of the FA Cup, and Corsham got put through. So I know I was fuming. Especially, it was the first time ever I coached in the FA Cup, which is what you grew up on. You love that cup tournament. But someone should have took responsibility for that. It's just that is so frustrating. But, you know, and then you hear the conspiracy theories. Could we afford to go up? Because players' wages will go up and this will go up. It just seems such a drop-off. Was these formation changes and all these... He was told we can't afford to go up. So he's got to not be consistent, mess it all up, play players all over the place. Because, you know, like, what was it the other week when we lost? Right, give at Grimsby. You got McGregor, who's a right back on the bench, and he plays right there at right back. Who got killed against the week before when we were away at Cambridge. So you think, could this be the fact that he was told, look, we can't afford to go up? So mess the team up, tinker with it, change it. Well, you don't know. But it does seem strange how the drop-off was just so big. You do start thinking, is there things in the pipeline that we just couldn't afford to go up? The chairman said, look, we ain't got the money. Their wages will all have to go up. You need better players for a better league on bigger wages. Could Swindon afford it? And you do start thinking that.
Well, if we have a fans forum on Thursday, that's a question that could be put. If we have a fans forum on Thursday.
I can't see
hi, Jamie. Hi, Jamie. If we go into 26-27 with Holloway, Bignot and Gav gunning, what is going to change? As tactically, we get out for every week. Some decent players, but got to question the coaching and chopping and changing. Do you pick players who don't know what they're doing? Your words, Adrian said. Any chance of hi, James, any truth in since January split in the dressing room because of player being harsh to the younger players? Issues started at this point. Gus, I mean, I don't know how much you followed the Luton debacle. I'm sure you did because you were on the panel during that time. Do you see that as a changing point in the season?
I don't know if what happened at Luton was the reason we started to go downhill. I mean, I think Mike just mentioned Finn Monroe for the first time here, or we've barely talked about that. You know, a lot of people see that as a major turning point, and I think you can look at a lot of statistics that kind of show that. You know, next year, assuming that Coach Holloway comes back, I'm assuming he's got a contract. I mean, I haven't heard anything that he's not coming back. He's going to be the one constant. You know, the players seem to come and go during the season. People get hurt. He's going to be the one constant. I had an old friend who unfortunately is no longer with us, but who used to say, do they have 30 years of experience or 1 year of experience 30 times? You know, have they learned from the past? And I think I said this last week on the show, but sometimes when Coach Holloway would give his Thursday comments or his right after the game comments, he would be saying, I've told them what I want them to do. You know, they know exactly what I expect of them. But it seemed like every game he was making some big plan, like playing four-dimensional chess. And I get the impression sometimes it might have confused people. You know, it was confusing them more than just putting a good team in, having a solid but not extremely complicated plan, and trying to win some games. You know, so if he's going to be our one constant this year, is he going to learn, and is he going to get better, and is he going to be able to win with the kind of players that we're going to have? We don't have Premier League players. We have League Two players. I remember thinking, the last comment, I remember thinking a bunch of times early in the season, I can't remember whether other people were saying it or it was just in my mind, let Princewell be Princewell. You know, he had so much talent in one little narrow area. He was so quick and so explosive. And he didn't seem like a lot of times they just let the guy do what he did best. He passed the ball, you know, be a part of a different kind of team. Maybe you just pass the ball to the guy and let him try to score. But that didn't seem to ever happen. Princewell didn't ever get to really be Princewell, and then he left.
He did, to Salford, who could go up. Is everybody all right? Because I'm just going to go on for another 5 or 10 minutes because we've still got lots to get through. Is that okay with everybody? Fine. Yeah. And I know Fools Rush In is on at 9 o'clock, so I don't want to encroach on their time. Hi, Clive. Well said, Mark. It's how the majority of us are feeling. Sadly, for the first time since 2008, I'm not renewing my season ticket as things stand. After 50-plus years of support, I've had enough, and I'm not alone. Fed up with the incompetence from top to bottom and the total disdain shown to us fans. What I want to do now is move on to the players who are out of contract in the summer if I can. Redmond Evans, Lewis Ward, Will Wright, Billy Kirkman, Sonny Hart, sorry, I'm being attacked by a fly here, Ant McCormick, Ryan Tavazzoni, Jake Batty, Ollie Clark, Jackson Brown, Harry Smith, Danny Butterworth, George Alston, Danny Gonzalez, Billy Bowden, Junior Hoylett. Rob, what's your take on those 16 players? You're on mute at the moment.
Yeah, it's all right. No worries. I am going to move it on to exactly what you want, because I think this is we can debate all long and hard about the things that have gone wrong, and there have been many. Yep. But almost every one of the things that everybody has said, if Holloway's listening to this or the chairman is listening to this, this is very easily fixable. These are not complicated things. Get your team right now. Go out there now. You've inadvertently got the best opportunity you could have wanted. You're not in the playoffs. You can get your pick of players who are out on a free, whilst all these other teams are now in the playoffs. Get this business done early and get the right players in this year that completely contradicts all the things that we've said that has caused us the pain this year. Don't rely on the loans as being your best players of the season. They're the ones who need to come in and supplement what you've already got. Make sure what you bring in next season, I'd clear out, I'd have no problem clearing every one of those players you've just listed out, none whatsoever, and start again. It's that kind of a clear out that's needed now. And if it's Holloway in charge, which it sounds like it's going to be, he's got to learn so many lessons himself. Mike summed it up absolutely perfectly a few minutes ago when he said about his eye was off the ball. Luton took his eye off the ball. And from that point onwards, it was always somebody else's issue from that game forwards. Tinkered with the team, never kept the right players in the right positions, was always looking for a formula that was never there. Never there. So we need to make sure all of those lessons, which are very, very, very easily learned, we don't make those same mistakes again next year. Because we've done it year after year after year. But now we have the opportunity to go out there and get the players we really need to get out of this division. He's had a year and a half now and he should have 1,000 games of experience under his belt. He should know. He shouldn't be needing us to tell him. He should know what he needs to get out of this division. And we've seen it plain as day in front of our eyes in these last 4 months, that our squad depth might have had a lot of players, but it had the wrong players and it had the wrong type of players to get us out of this league in the right direction. Carry on in the same way that we are, we will be getting out of this league, but it won't be in the right direction.
Adrian's made this point. Well done, Matt Povey. But why did we pay so much money on stitching the pitch only to play hoofball? Congratulations to Matt and his team. I think that's a real highlight, along with the women, of course, winning their championship. Fantastic season for them. I know they've got their celebration on Saturday night, and much deserved too. Andrew, I've just listed all those players. Which ones do you realistically think might be here next season, come August?
I'm not necessarily sure that many. I mean, Conor Ripley and Lewis Ward have clearly got a good relationship going. But again, here we are. It's like, what do we do with Redmond Evans now? He's had a good year out on loan. So what's the strategy for that? What's the long term thinking? What's our recruitment thinking at the moment? And I think my gut feeling, without any inside knowledge, is that we might not see that many of those come back. I feel like Will Wright is probably going to disappear. I think Rob sort of talked about it. Clearly, we need some of those sort of gnarled old centre halves, but I'm going to do too much broad thinking again. Obviously there are parts of Ian Holloway that are old school. I think he wants, the players broadly to kind of run the dressing room and provide, that kind of leadership and communication on the pitch. And I wonder how many of those kind of players exist, or whether they are a kind of dying species. I don't want to sound like some writer going, "Oh, there's not any leaders out there anymore." But whether that kind of player is still there and could be found in League Two, or whether that kind of approach that puts so much, kind of emphasis on the players taking sort of the responsibility for it, whether that can work really, because he's now in the Matt Sadler zone, if you know what I mean. There's a split in fans about what happens with him because of the fact the season has tailed off so badly, and it probably gives him very little leeway in terms of kind of general unrest and frustration if we don't start as well as Walsall did last season.
Yeah, get that point. Very good point too. Hi, Alistair. It's fine for Clem to come clean on Thursday night. As a Swindon fan, you could tell we were never good enough to go up, but I feel that Holloway knows more than what he's saying. We need a new backroom staff, then see if it changes. Andy, out of those 16 then, who would you keep?
Well, I did have a look. I was under the impression he was talking about the academy staff all going. Did he mean the people that were actually on loan? They're out on loan as well.
Well,
if you're not
you've got Danny Gonzalez, we've got George Alston, we've got Jackson Brown, Sonny Hart.
Can I say something very quickly, Nick? I think the broad thing Ian Holloway said about that is that the idea is that players have got to be the players they get have got to be like available to come in and have an impact on a promotion winning side. So it's kind of I'm not sure that necessarily bodes particularly well for first year pros who've been out on loan at kind of National League South and below. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, fair enough. Are you there? I think we might have lost him. Are you there? No, he's not.
Me?
Yes, you. Yes.
All right. I didn't quite catch what Andrew said. My internet went off. But what did Andrew say about the academy players? Sorry.
He said that, go on.
Yeah. So the point was quickly. He's kind of said that the reason none of the academy players take you on is that they're necessarily bad players. They've got to be players who can come in and get involved in that first team squad. So in terms of the young ones, I'm not sure that bodes well for the first year pros who've been out at National South and below and so on.
No, I mean, my personally, if they hadn't, if they weren't good enough to come back throughout the season, I don't see the point in frankly keeping them. There's not many in that list that I would have kept. Are you
there, Dorset? think Dorset's disappeared.
And then obviously
Oh, he's back.
Butterworth, Smith, Batty, and Kirkman. Butterworth and Smith, you probably can't hear me now. Butterworth and Smith, subject to their injuries, and Batty and Kirkman, I'd give them. I think they've got potential. The rest, no, I'm sorry, there's nothing there that really excites me to keep. As Rob said, we need a complete, redress, a reset. We need dogs in midfield, and we need more than one dog other than Clark, because it was clear when Clark was not available through injury, suspension, or playing centre half, we missed him massively in the centre. So what Mark said earlier, offer ball, people like that, quite simple. We didn't really have a right back. If you can call Joel McGregor a right back, he's neither. He's brilliant. He's lovely, but you need the players to have the systems that you wanted to play. So, big reset, please.
Well, I'm glad there are internet problems in the neighbouring county of Dorset as well as Devon. So that's really good to know.
You've nicked it. All the Grockles are down. They've nicked our internet. They've nicked our phone signal. So.
Yeah, the horses have actually got working here instead of there. Right, in a minute, I'm going to leave the last word with Mark, but I'm just going to read you a couple of and get to you as well, Jamie. Don't forget, I'm going to get you in a sec. Well said, Rob. But haven't we said this year after year? And I think we've said that on this panel year after year, haven't we? Get your business done early. Bring back Richie if he's available. Tongue in cheek, says Tony Goff. Well, it didn't go well at Leyton Orient. I don't know if you saw his rant. That's up there with Holloway's rant with you, Andrew. That was a cracker.
I enjoyed that. It was a belter. Yeah.
It was a belter. Yeah. Hi, Matt. What is the scouting setup? Who's running things? Is it all linked to Holloway? Taff with one arm was more dominant than his teammates. Got loads of comments. I think we've had a record tonight. Jamie, out of those 16 players, what's your thoughts on? I don't want to mention next season because, oh gosh, we all need a break, don't we? But what are your thoughts?
I think for me, it's about what's the criteria we use to decide whether those players are right or who we're bringing in. And I think that's got to change. I don't think I'm the only one sick and tired of hearing about managing minutes. And for me, one of the criteria needs to be, can these players play 35, 40 games a season? Because I think we've tried now for 2 or 3 years to have people we can manage, and then they might play 20 games or they might be out there for 5 games. And I go back to Notts County when we were travelling back from Notts County and Holloway was banging on about managing minutes on the way back. And you listen to the interview with Notts County manager who said their back three had played 11 consecutive games. And that for me was the difference, was the and his logic on the back of that was, if they need a rest after that, we'll play them until they need a rest and then we'll sort it out afterwards. And I think for me, the mentality's got to change on bringing in players that may have potential because they played at a high level, but they've got a sick note history. I think we need a squad that we can build relationships. How many times we said our promotion winning teams have had relationships, whether it's relationships with left back to left winger, or whether it's midfielder to midfielder, and for me, that should be the recruitment, is can we build a nucleus of players that can week after week build relationships and actually look like they're in a formation on a team, rather than what to me feels like a recruitment policy that says that's make it up of players that may or may not make it through a certain number of games. I don't think otherwise that cohesion changes. And for me, then you look at that list and say, how many people in that list, hand on heart, do we think then can play 35 games next year? I'd love to say that Clark could play 35 games. Tavazzoli's not going to, as much as I love him. So you start setting yourself up for failure. So am I got a huge amount of faith that will change in the current structure? My jury's out on that. But I'd love to see us with a nucleus of 14 players that played pretty much every week, and we get to the point where Andrew's sick and tired of reading the same team sheet out because we know exactly who it's going to be.
Well, I'll go back to the days of Ozzy Ardiles, 27 consecutive games with the same team. I know I keep saying that, but
we take 4 or 5, really.
Well, it used to be a standing joke. We just used to go, Ozzy, same team, and you go, yeah, and that was it. We just say Ross McLaren just to get him to say it. It was always a standing joke, really, and brilliant. 27 games in a row. Can you understand that? Hi, Darren. If Smith was fit, we'd be in League One this year. The wages spent on Palmer would have been spent on other strengths. I mean, I spoke to Harry Smith pitchside on Saturday. I don't know if you heard it on the tannoy. Anyway, I did. And he said he was looking forward to being with the lads next season in pre-season. So he obviously wants to stay. Right. It's 17 minutes past 8. And I know that Falls Rush is waiting in the wings at 9 o'clock. Mark, I'm going to leave the last words to you because you speak passionately. This is the forum for you to say what you want. Off you go.
Thank you very much, Vic. I appreciate you giving me the last word. I'm going to start with the list of players that you gave, and I'm going to keep Smith, Butterworth and Curtin, and the rest you can bin off. You can't have players that aren't fit. You can't have players that play 20 games a season or 25. That's no good. You've got to play players. I mean, Sean Taylor, can you imagine him being injured? The guy'd run through a brick wall for Swindon Town.
You played too many minutes, Sean. You ought to come off.
Oh, yeah, he'll have to come off, Sean. Yeah, you might get injured. Or Colin Calderwood, So that's the first thing. That links to my second point, which is about the players' fitness, as touched on by that previous caller. The players aren't fit. And that was really surprised me because the players that played for Holloway when he first came in were super fit. That's why they kept winning games at the end. I'm afraid Ollie Palmer is a classic example of that. That guy is a stone and more overweight. He can't be playing league football when you're carrying that kind of weight, I'm afraid, and that applies to one or two others. We're not fit enough. I don't know what's happened to the training, but that's quite clear to me. And then matters off the pitch. We mentioned leadership earlier on. I think it was Andrew talking about leadership. Leadership comes from on high. Leadership comes from the manager. Mike was right about the Luton debacle. He blamed everybody but himself and took his eye off the ball. Leadership, being a leader, doesn't mean that you apportion blame to others. It means you accept responsibility for what you do and the mistakes you make. And those mistakes, by the way, are being replicated year on year by people who run the club. So I'm going to say, in no particular order, Tannoy. That on Saturday was a disgrace. Sort it out. Give people the respect they deserve. They support Swindon Town and they've died. And people couldn't even hear the names being read out. Simply unacceptable. Turnstiles, sort that out, please, for next season. The training ground might be a longer term aim, the 3 Ts, but we need to get that sorted out because perhaps it explains why players who train in car and have to drive to Swindon are getting so many injuries because they're in the car for too long, and the physio. You can't run a football club without a full-time physio. What is happening off the pitch is rank amateurish. We are a professional football club who potentially could get 15 to 20,000 gates every week. What is happening? Sort it out, please, before those fans start deserting in droves, because believe you me, there are a lot of people who are not very happy with what's going on.
Thank you very much, Mark. I think you echo what many people think. Rob has made this point. What about the 69 team? Hardly changed all massive season. John Trollope would have carried on with a broken arm, I think, during that season if he could. That's a sort of change in the way football is played. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. I know it's almost gone on as long as a frame of snooker at the World Snooker Championships recently. What was that, hour and 40 minutes? Well, we're just shy of that. So, but I think, Chris, we needed a bit of a therapy session tonight, didn't we, after Saturday? And from my own personal point of view, I echo what I said right at the beginning. There are 2 cornerstones to this season. There is the Remembrance Day and there is the Roll of Honour at the end of season. We should remember those who support Swindon Town and we should remember them in the proper way. And those people who wrote in to remember their loved ones didn't get the respect they deserve. And I, for one, am furious about it. I'm furious about the way season's finished. I'm fed up with it. I don't want League 2 football. We will have League football next season. The only consolation, Chris, I've got an away game, which is 6 miles away in Exeter, which is fabulous. Yay. But I wanted that in League 1, not in League 2.
Chris, just before you sum up, can on behalf of all of us who come on for therapy, can we just thank you and Vic, because we all appreciate how much work goes into doing these every week that people don't see in terms of the prep and the organisation and chasing all us to be on it. So I think it's we all need it as therapy, let alone everyone else that listens in. But on our behalf, thank you to both of you, because it's not a small task.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for turning up. Thank you for turning up.
I do the easy bit. Well, I do the easy bit on the night. So, but no, thank you for those words. It was it's very much appreciated. Yes, it is. Regarding the Roll of Honour, we have got an AB meeting on Thursday, so that will be one of my comments made about it and the tannoy. So don't worry about that. That will be mentioned, as will a lot of other things as well. So. But thank you very much, guys. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. It's been quite a season. But as always, we appreciate all the viewers, all your comments and everything. So from Vic and I, we thank the panelists and the viewers that watch it. We will be back next week. Not sure what we're doing yet, but we will do something next week.
Are we ever sure what we're doing, Chris?
No, we're not. If we don't know, we'll just make it up. It doesn't matter. So yeah. So thank you very much, everybody. Take care, and we will see you soon. And I'm saying for everybody, bye bye.
Thank you.
Over.